It's a love string, right? Yeah. All right. Come on. Anything is possible when you believe. Anything is possible when you believe. Faith can make a mountain move when you believe. Faith can make a mountain move when you believe. Don't you know that you can change your life when you believe? Don't you know that you can change your life when you believe in yourself? When you believe in yourself, when you believe in yourself, when you believe in yourself, when you believe, gonna make a miracle when you believe. Gonna make a miracle. Gonna make a miracle when you believe. Gonna make a miracle. Everything you want, you got. When you believe, you want it, you got it. Everything you want, you got. When you believe, you want it, you got it. In yourself, when you believe. 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 Yeah, we can make a miracle. Make a miracle. 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 See, I believe in me, so I believe in you. Since we believe in each other, there ain't nothing we can do. Nah, 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 nah. Yeah, I believe in me, so I believe in you. Since we believe in each other, there ain't nothing we can do. Yeah, I believe in me, so I believe in you. Since we believe in each other, there ain't nothing we can do. Nah, 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 whoa. We can make a miracle. Make a miracle. 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 See, I believe in me, so I believe in you. Since we believe in each other, there ain't nothing we can do. One more time, here we go. Yeah, I believe in me, so I believe in you. Since we believe in each other, there ain't nothing we can do.
Oh, that was just fantastic. Thank you. Give you a moment to just rest. Oh, and it just feels so good. It revs up something in the body, doesn't it? So great. So this is a song that, it's been a while since I've heard it, and I just love it.
I love it too.
Yes, I love myself the way I am.
Change starts with us, right? Change starts with me. So when I love myself, I can love everything around me. We're back in the 80s. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful, I'm capable of being the best me I can. So I love myself just the way I am. I love you just the way you are. There's nothing you need to do. When I feel the love inside myself, it's easy to love you. Behind your fears, your rage and tears, I see your shining star. And I love you just the way you are. Woo! I love the world the way it is, 'cause I can clearly see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. So till the birth of peace on earth that only true love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. I love myself the way I am, and still I wanna grow. But change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful, I'm capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. I love myself just the way I am. So till the birth of peace on earth that only true love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. Yes, I love myself just the way I am. I love the world, I love you, I love myself the way I am. So I'll love the world the way it is. Yeah, I love myself just the way I am.
Join with me in consciousness with this idea of I love myself just the way I am. Knowing that Spirit is all, in all, through all. Spirit is being me right here, right now. And I know that all that I judge is done by people just like me. And so today, as I focus on being a loving presence everywhere I go, I know that I get more to love in return. And so with a grateful and full heart, I allow the love that I am to lead the way. I let go and I let it be so. Please affirm with me, and so it is. For there is only love. by Karen Drucker and Emilio Zares.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, I would go inside and quiet my mind, and I'd hear Spirit say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only, there is only love.
Beautiful. The absolute word for today is assurance. I am assured all things are possible through the ageless omnipotence of my sacred self. The Apostle Paul frequently wrote of the pain and suffering he endured in the course of his missionary travels. He described his difficulties not as complaints, but to emphasize his assurance that the ultimate glory of Christ's mind is infinitely greater than mortal limitations. I consider that the sufferings of this present time, he wrote in Romans 8:18, are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. Trust the same principle, the same spiritual assurance to move myself through my day. My intentions may not be revealed. My body and mind may seem intent on emphasizing obstacles and fears. Still, I move gratefully forward, knowing that nothing can affect the spiritual power that is my true identity. I'm assured all things are possible through the ageless omnipotence of my sacred self. And so this year, Perfect Vision 2020, seeing through a spiritual lens, has meant really to trust, hasn't it? To trust that everything is unfolding perfectly and that what is mine, what is yours to do, reveals itself, and that those are the open doors that we walk through. And this month, we're looking at bridge over troubled waters in terms of what we're focusing on today, and how do we bridge over times that are difficult. And boy, have we been doing that this year in our idea of cosmic connections. So bridge over troubled waters, does it remind you of a song? How does it go, Emilio? Maybe sing a line for us?
Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down.
Right on. Boy, if I could belt it out like that. So today we're going to look at forgiveness. Forgiveness from the standpoint of a bridge over troubled waters. And we're going to look at 4 statements that are really impactful in change, and how thoughts can hurt and what we might do about that. So unforgiveness is living from that wounded place. And I know that there are many situations, and we've all had them, and maybe you're even in a situation like that, where someone has just behaved so badly and has wounded you, and you have every right to feel wounded. But I'd like to look at it as, how do we move through that wounded self? How do we forgive? How do you forgive when something seems impossible? So spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep personal and emotional unfinished business is what we call spiritual bypass. And many of us on this positive path to spirituality have a tendency to do this thing called spiritual bypass. And forgiveness is not spiritual bypass. It's not just putting on a happy face and marching along and carrying what I call that bag of boulders or that bag of garbage. It's not condoning. It's about setting good boundaries. It's about self-care. It's about feeling safe, and it's about making good judgments. So if you're thinking that you just have to put on a happy face and suck it up, no, there's another way to handle it. And I'd like to explore that with you today. So this idea of bridge over troubled waters, have you heard of the Hawaiian method of ho'oponopono? And it's basically 4 statements. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. And I know that on the surface, those statements can be really difficult. Like, why would I want to say I'm sorry to someone that I really am attempting to forgive? Or why would I say, please forgive me, what did I do? You know, or the idea of I love you. How can I love somebody when they've done something terrible? Or thank you for having done that terrible. Well, let's explore what those statements actually mean at the core. So to begin, let's begin with this idea that when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. And so let's take a look at this. I'm sorry, actually in a full phrase is, I'm sorry for being unaware of my beliefs. Because our beliefs are what draw things to us. And if I believe something, and I'm not even sure that I do, but something out there doesn't appear that way, then I can really feel a conflict there. And so to be able to say in the midst of some negative situation, I'm sorry for being unaware of my beliefs. Please forgive me. So this is the full phrase. Please forgive me or my ancestors for any of the programs or data, the limiting paradigm that I inherited or that they inherited. That somehow we're carrying with us these ideas that even behaving badly is okay and that it's normal. And when I say, please forgive me for having bought into that, I'm saying open myself up to what else is there that I can believe that is more fruitful, more loving, and an easier way to be. I love you, the full phrase. I love you for taking care of my life. I love you for my life. And so it's not speaking to the person who's done this unconscionable thing. It's speaking to the spirit within you, this grander part of who you are, to say that you really do trust and know that in spite of everything, that Spirit God is looking after you, that there is this benevolent, supportive love in the universe that resides right where you are, and that you love that it is taking care of your life. Excuse me. And that you love yourself and God for your life. Thank you. So this is another one it's interesting because, again, the word thank you is you're not thanking the perpetrator. You're saying thank you, and cleaning these limiting beliefs just comes from this idea of I release them. So thank you for cleaning these limiting beliefs, this data that I have in my mind, this lack of faith, or whatever has caused me to be unclear, and as a consequence, my life is having these negative experiences, or that I'm having a negative experience as a consequence of these events. So to say thank you in advance to Spirit, and allowing Spirit to move through you and to bring something better. So bridge over troubled waters, this idea that thoughts can really hurt. And what can we do about that? So what do you think about this statement? Forgiving others is essential for spiritual growth. Now, there are some wise people that came before me that basically said if there's anything negative that we're hanging on to, that it's really difficult to prosper in any area of your life, whether it be health, relationships, love, work, money, and maybe you can think of other things. And that forgiving is one of those things that when you can forgive, then your spiritual growth just expands. So Lily Tomlin had this great definition for forgiveness: giving up all hope of a different past. And isn't it interesting, because the thing is that right now, think about something that has happened that perhaps you're still sitting with unforgiveness about. It's already happened. So really all that's going on is you are remembering it, and you are in that state of remembering it. You can't change the past. You can only change right now. You can change the way you're thinking right now. You can release that and move forward. So think of a time where you experienced the magic of forgiveness. I tell this story occasionally, and it was when I was a business person. I was around, maybe late 20s, early 30s. And I had changed my business model. I had changed how I was going to handle things, and I wanted my pay structure for my staff and all of that to be more equitable for everyone, but also to create incentive for them to, if they worked harder, they were able to make more, that there wasn't sort of a ceiling as to how much they could earn. And when I changed it, there was so much fear that happened with the staff that I had at the time. I had 12 people that worked for me at the time, and 8 of them were so afraid that they decided to mutiny. And in their mutiny, they not only stole all the files from my computers, all the customer files and everything else, but they went out and slandered me to those clients, basically saying that I wasn't treating them properly and that I wasn't paying them correctly and all of that kind of thing. And I was on the verge of going bankrupt, because all of my big breadwinners that were helping me to pay the rent were all of a sudden gone. And I was feeling terrible and awful because of how they were behaving out in the community. And Randy had just been in my life for a short time at that point, and he was very much into believing this idea of forgiveness. And he said to me, there is a statement that Leonard Shaw has basically made that is, I forgive you for the ignorant way that you've behaved towards me. And he said, if you say that often enough, eventually it will land and you will release the forgiveness and you'll be free of how you're feeling. And I was so mad and I was so hurt. And I would say, I forgive you for the ignorant way you've behaved towards me. That using ignorant as an, Emilio's laughing here, using the word ignorant as in awful and terrible and mean and whatever way that you've behaved towards me. And for almost an entire year, every day, several times a day, I would say that with the emphasis on the word ignorant. And then one day, I woke up, as in I was awake, but I woke up, if you know what I mean. I had an aha moment. And I recognized that the word ignorant actually was that they didn't know any differently. They didn't know any better. And it was as though, if you think of a pressure cooker, someone just opened the lid. And all of a sudden, I felt free. I remember thinking, yes, if they had truly known, first of all, what it was that I was attempting to do and what they were doing and the kind of impact it was having on me, they wouldn't have done that. But they were in a really scared place. And when I shifted, there was actually several of them that either came to me or wrote to me and said, I'm so sorry that I behaved in such a bad way, but I was really afraid. And I remember not being really that gracious receiving their comments, but thinking, isn't it interesting that as soon as I released it, they shifted energetically, and I didn't even say it to them. So that's how powerful forgiveness can be. And perhaps in this moment, you can think about a time when you finally just surrendered and gave up. And maybe you can remember how things unfolded and what happened. And I invite you, as it maybe bubbles up this week, to jot it down just as a reminder that that's actually how forgiveness can work. So is there a place that you still have unforgiveness? Can you feel it in your body anywhere? Is it in your heart? Is it in your stomach? What will it take to be willing to forgive? And I know for me, I feel negativity in my body, usually in my stomach and in my intestines. It's as though I can't digest the idea. And so it hurts until I've come around to looking at it another way. And so I do ask myself the question, and I ask you this: what will it take to be willing to forgive? And for me, it's, I choose to feel comfortable. I choose to not feel this awful pain that I'm feeling because I'm hanging on to this negativity. Maybe you have a different answer. Know that you can't go faster than your soul is willing to go. So you can't force forgiveness. Just like with me, it took a whole year. So ease into it. Ease into forgiveness. And don't make yourself wrong. I mean, maybe, and I know for me, some of my forgiveness work is around myself and needing to forgive myself because I have such high expectations at times about how I ought to behave or I should know better or something like that. And then I beat myself up about it. Have you ever found yourself doing that? And so my forgiveness work right now is to continue to let myself off the hook and to not make myself wrong and to know, like the Four Agreements says, that really everything unfolds perfectly and that I'm okay and I'm doing the best that I can in this moment. And as I learn more, I do even better. So how about writing a forgiveness letter? So maybe you don't need to speak to somebody at all, but write out a letter. And so here are some points that you might put in there. So express the regret or the anger that you have. Explain what went wrong from your viewpoint. Acknowledge your own personal responsibility in that, and maybe even your expected responsibility from the other person. And then declare your regret about how it unfolded. And then offer to repair it. Perhaps that you can repair it, or how they may repair it in that letter. And sit with that for a while, because it's a very powerful tool. Or how about this? Write a letter from the person to you. So put their hat on, put their coat on, put their shoes on, and speak to you in this letter from their viewpoint, how they might have been seeing things at the time. Your experience of someone who has hurt you, while painful, is now nothing more than a thought or a feeling that you're carrying around. And I know I'm diminishing it a bit, but the thing is, it's already happened. So now it's only a thought. And you know what? You can change your thinking. So how do you forgive someone who's hurt you badly? Well, like Lily Tomlin said, giving up all hope of a different past is the place to start. And that when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. And I can't change what happened, but I'm also not willing to have that thing that happened define me or be who I am. I choose to be joyful and excited and leaning into life rather than afraid and closed up and angry and sad. And so, yes, I'm willing to give up all hope of a different past, other than to say that my past actually created who I am today. But I'm not going to change that. I can't change that. So here are some ideas for you to think about. Can you move on to the next act? Your past history and all of your hurts are no longer here in your present reality. So can you move on? What if all of them were necessary, all these things that happened, to make you who you are, for you to see the world in this way? Can you say thank you as a consequence of that? Because you might not be as aware and as compassionate as you are today if that thing, whatever it was, didn't occur. So can you embrace them all the situations, all the people that hurt you, and just move on to the next act? Do you remember to reconnect with Spirit at this time? So if something has hurt you, is the first place that you go to center in God? And if not, why not? Make a new agreement with yourself to always stay connected to Spirit, even when it seems to be the most difficult thing to do. Because I promise you, Spirit will bring you the love and the peace and the joy, even if it's in little increments, when you open up to Spirit. But guaranteed it's not going to happen if you're just shut down and closed off. Everything always works out for me. Remember me saying that? Can you say that with me? Everything always works out for me. Or God has my back. God has my back. Or God is good. This is how you radiate God consciousness. One of the ways. So how do you radiate God consciousness? What kind of a stature do you take? What kind of thinking do you have when you radiate God consciousness? Do you go to sleep angry ever? I have a few times. And it's awful, because did you know your sleep is dominated by your last waking thoughts? I mean, I was taught a long time ago when I was learning hypnotherapy that if you make the thoughts of, let's say you're trying to figure something out, if you make your last thought a question about, okay, give me the answer when I wake up in the morning to whatever it is, I inevitably wake up and I have the answer. And so if I go to sleep with anger and frustration and stress and negativity, then that's what I get even the next day, because it's had all night to anchor. So in sleep, man impresses the subconscious mind with his conception of himself. That's Neville Goddard. And he has some really great writings that you can look up if you like. I am peaceful, I am content, I am love, I attract people and situations that are supporting my highest beliefs of myself. Now maybe if you wrote something like that for yourself and read it just before you lay down. So say that with me. I am peaceful, I am content, I am love, I attract people and situations that are supporting my highest beliefs of myself. How does that feel? Because as you focus on it, that's what comes. So are you willing to switch from blaming others to understanding yourself? I know you think this question should say, are you willing to switch from blaming others to understanding them? But the thing is that you will never understand someone else. It is impossible sometimes to understand myself, let alone to try and figure out what's going on in someone else's mind. The thing is that if I truly, and if you truly, create your reality 100% based on your thoughts and feelings and what's in your subconscious mind, then understanding yourself is the only place you can go. And so are you willing to switch from blaming others to saying, okay, what is it that I can do in this moment to be more of the best of me? So whenever you're upset, do you realize you're holding those people responsible for your inner distress, for your feelings? And the thing is that if somebody else is responsible, then you're going to have to wait for them to change their mind. But the thing is, if you recognize that you are responsible for whether you're hanging on to something or not, then how empowering is that? Can you just be with whatever you're feeling? Like, just be with what you're feeling. Let the experience be as it may, without blaming others for your feelings. Because really, no one can make me feel any way. I choose that. And I choose to let go of that too. And the moment that I do is the moment that I'm free. Because I'm not waiting for someone else to say, now you can feel differently. I get to do that all by myself. So are you ready to take back your power? Don't blame yourself. I know maybe you're sitting there saying, but I just can't forgive this particular situation. And that's okay. Honor that. Be there until you're ready to let it go. Tell yourself that no one has the power to make you uneasy without your consent. And then feel it if you need to. Feel it till it's done. Feel it till you're so sick of feeling it that you're ready to let it go. Or just let it go. Are you willing to freely experience your emotions without calling them wrong or needing to chase them away? See, that's a big one. Why is it that in our society today, we're supposed to hide everything except for our happy? Like, why can't we freely experience our emotions? I know it's taken me a long time to, whether it's joy or sadness, to cry in public. But I recognize that that's one of the ways that I express my feelings. And in the early days, I used to be so embarrassed by it. But now I realize that that's just how I'm hardwired. I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad, I cry when I'm excited. It's just my go-to place. You may have another way of dealing with things, but mine is certainly tears. But I know that you have emotions and you have feelings. Are you ready to just be with them and say, okay, here you are. What am I going to do with you now? Can you bypass blame and even your desire to understand the other person and focus on understanding yourself instead? By taking responsibility for how you choose to respond to anything or anyone, you're aligning yourself with this beautiful dance of life. You're in the flow, like the Abraham Hicks channeled messages where they say, you're in the vortex, you're in the flow of life, you're going downstream instead of upstream. And it starts with this idea of choosing to be just okay with how life is happening and that your highest and best is unfolding. So do you like to tell people what to do? Sometimes, right? Because why? Maybe you have a better idea. Maybe you think that you need to be right. Well, how about avoiding thoughts and activities that involve people telling people who are perfectly capable of making their own choices what to do? You know, someone once said to me, the wisdom of every soul. And what they meant by that was that God is within that person too. Why do I need to take the stance of revealing it for them? The thing is that often that in itself creates conflict. Listen and ask questions rather than make statements. So did anything happen this week where rather than reacting, if you had asked questions or just listened, it might have turned out differently? So are you willing to learn and let go and be like water? Like, think about water. It just finds the easiest places to go. And the thing is that as it flows, it wears down rough edges and just naturally does that from the essence of what it is. And that you can do that too. That rather than attempting to dominate, to be like water. So how can you, in a conflicted situation that you might be in right now, be like water and maybe just listen, or just ask questions, or just be, or just sit there and send love? Or one of my favorites, especially if I'm being confronted by someone, is tell me more. Help me to understand what you mean by that. And really say it from a place of love and curiosity, that you're really leaning in to wanting to know. I've never considered that before is another one. Thank you. I'll give it some thought. And I mean, you may not be feeling it inside, but the thing is that right away there is a softening of the other person, and then it's easier to be soft yourself. So this idea of giving up all hope of a different past, that when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. Are you starting to see how it's in your thinking and it's in your power to do the changing? You can. It's possible. And it's okay to also drag it along with you if you need to for a while, until you no longer choose to do that. So can you take responsibility for your part in the situation, whatever it was? And maybe there was no responsibility. Maybe it's just that you bought into the idea that the world is violent, and so occasionally violence occurs. And to be able to just release that belief system out of your mind. Because the more that you're able to release it from who you are, the less you're going to experience those things in your life. So what about this? I may not understand why I feel this way, why I have this illness, why I've been victimized, or why I had this accident, but I'm willing to say without any guilt or resentment that I own it. And what that means is that it's happened. It's part of who I am now. And that I live with it, and I'm responsible for having it, whatever feelings I have about it in my life. And so it's not condoning the behavior, but it's saying, you know what, I'm hurt, or I'm sad, or just feeling really stressed about it, and that it's okay. I choose to not let that define me. I choose to move forward anyway. So think about this. If someone or something is responsible in your mind, then you'll have to wait until they change for you to get better. So what would it take to let go of resentments? I know that's a big question, and maybe you want to just write this down and look at it during the week and see what comes up. What would it take to let go of some of the resentments that you're feeling? You know, maybe you want to say, I have the right to be upset when my daughter, mother-in-law, ex-husband, boss speaks to me that way. Yes, but maybe that's in fact why they speak to you that way, because they like getting a rise out of you. So what if you didn't have a reaction? Just a thought. Someone must risk returning injury with kindness, or hostility will never turn to goodwill. That was Lao Tzu. It's hard though, isn't it? When you've been hurt, whether it be emotionally or physically, to return that behavior with kindness, and maybe it won't happen right away, and that's okay. But the thing is that you can't stop a war with a war. You can only stop it with kindness, with just stopping. So how about be kind instead of right? There's a Chinese proverb, if you're going to pursue revenge, you'd better dig 2 graves, which is saying your resentments will destroy you. Because the revenge, you're going to bury that person, but you're also going to bury yourself in that. Because it really is not a healthy place to be. What would giving look like instead? If you took the stance of either giving love or giving kindness or giving understanding, what would that look like? When you notice yourself feeling the need to be right, how about silently reciting from the prayer of St. Francis? Where there is injury, let me bring pardon. And our closing prayer today is going to be the prayer of St. Francis. So you'll get to see the whole thing. So again, giving up all hope of a different past is what unforgiveness is. And so when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. So are you looking for occasions to be offended? Do you get up in the morning and say, I wonder who's going to piss me off today? And maybe you are. Or you're going to see someone, and every time you've met with them, they've always been negative. So are you already setting it up that, yeah, I'm going to see them, and I'm just going to have to brace myself because they're always so negative? What if you did the opposite instead? Send love out ahead of your visit. Send kindness out ahead of your visit. You might be surprised that they're all of a sudden very different in your presence. Here's a statement that I like to make fairly frequently, and that is, I have control over how I'm going to feel, and I choose to feel peaceful regardless of what is going on. So do you sometimes live in the past, or do you live in the present? Because living in the past is where that unforgiveness is as well. Living in the present, however, is when you can make a different choice. So are you willing to embrace your dark times, not make them wrong, but just say, you know what, somehow I can be thankful for these because I am the magnificent individual that I am today as a consequence of all of these things that I've gone through. And it doesn't mean that you set yourself up to go through them, but life happens, stuff happens, and they are dark times. We all have them. It's to say, you know what? I've been molded into this magnificence as a consequence of that. Thank you. And let's move on. The universe is an intelligent system with a divine creative force supporting it. There simply can be no accidents. And so I say that because this comes from science, that things happen for a reason. And maybe that reason is because on some level your soul is wishing to grow, to be more understanding, to be more compassionate, to be more loving. Negative experience, can you understand them, accept them, honor them, and finally transform them? Because they're not good or bad. They're just experiences. So are you willing to refrain from judgment and go to love instead? I know that judgment is the first thing, so go ahead and do that, but then release it. Criticism and condemnation of the thoughts and feelings and behaviors of others is stepping away from realizing God in them and in you. Can you substitute love for judgment? So how about just send love? Because that's something I do. I sit and I close my mind and I close my eyes and I open my heart and I just allow the love that is within me, that is spirit, to go out to that person, to that event, to all of me as well, to just resolve whatever it is that's going on, because love solves all. When I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. So send out love thoughts to any resentments that you're currently carrying. Make this your standard response to any future altercations. I end on love no matter what. So how about tonight when you go to sleep? Say, I end on love no matter what. And as you're falling asleep, imagine the love from your heart going out to all the people in your life, including those that seemingly have hurt you. So, bridge over troubled waters, I'm sorry I forgot. Please forgive me, because I didn't realize that I had that residing in me as well, and that I love you for supporting me, and thank you for supporting me, Spirit. So giving up all hope of a different past is unforgiveness, and it's crazy making. So when I change the way I look at things change. So let's anchor this with the power of one, because really there is only one thing going on here. Spirit. Yes.
Life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when so much is on the line. But you can make a difference. With courage, you can set things right. The gift to dream and make dreams real is yours and mine. The power of a one begins with believing. It starts in the heart, then flows through the soul and changes the world. Imagine how life will be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to the power of one. Each of us is chosen. There's a mission just for you. Just look inside, you'll be surprised what you can do. The power of one begins with believing. It starts in the heart, then flows through the soul and changes the world. Imagine how life will be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to the power of one, and one by one we can make this world a much better place. The power of one begins with believing. It starts in the heart, then flows through the soul and changes the world. Imagine how life will be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to peace, love, and harmony. It's inside of you and me. The power of one.
So let's just take a moment now to just close your eyes and know that in this one power is all the possibilities. It is filled with love and hope and joy and relief. And so whatever it is that you're hanging on to, let it go now. Let it go and allow abundance in every way to show up in your life. As money, as health, as joy, as wonderful, wonderful relationships, as just a sense of relief. And let's anchor this idea with the song One Power by Daniel Nahmod.
One power, one power, one power. There's one power invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable,